afternoon, everybody. This morning, Secretary Napolitano announced new actions my administration will take to mend our nation's immigration policy, to make it more fair, more efficient, and more just, specifically for certain young people, sometimes called dreamers. Now, these are young people who study in our schools, they play in our neighborhoods, they're friends with our kids, they pledge allegiance to our flag. They are Americans in their heart, in their minds, in every single way but one, on paper. They were brought to this country by their parents, sometimes even as infants, and often have no idea that they're undocumented until they apply for a job or a driver's license or a college scholarship. Put yourself in their shoes. Imagine you've done everything right your entire life. Studied hard, worked hard, maybe even graduated at the top of your class, only to suddenly face the threat of deportation to a country that you know nothing about, with a language that you may not even speak. That's what gave rise to the DREAM Act. We have always drawn strength from being a nation of immigrants, as well as a nation of laws, and that's going to continue. And my hope is that Congress recognizes that and gets behind this effort. All right? Thank you very much, everybody.
An estimated 3.6 million people in the U.S. qualified as dreamers. These individuals enter the United States as children and lack authorization to remain in the country. Since 2001, Congress has sought to protect these migrants, yet no bill has ever been passed. Meanwhile, these new Americans live in a state of flux between a normal life and being deported, between being accepted and being invisible. Each year, between 300,000 to 430,000 people are deported from the U.S., and between 40 and 50,000 return to Mexico. This is a story of 5 young people who exist in this in-between space. They are both American and Mexican, and neither at the same time. They are expelled by a system that denies their belonging to the only country they have known.
Might as well take this left. Or either one. Doesn't matter.
I'll try to follow. That's the intention.
I grew up in Rockwall, Texas. That's where I lived my whole life. I graduated from Rockwall High School in 2014 with honors. I was a good student, I guess. I never got into trouble, all positive referrals.
My parents always took us to Catholic school, always wanted us to do communions and all that stuff. Very, very close, huge family. We're the only ones out here.
Being a kid in the States, I think that I lived a normal childhood. I had my parents, I had my brother. I was very focused in school, and my parents were giving me a lot of opportunities to continue going to to school, I didn't have to worry about anything else.
I grew up in California. Actually, as a kid, I moved around a lot. So I lived in Almani, Long Beach, and then ended up in Pomona, and then in Montclair.
I thought, I was American. I thought I could go, take a trip to Mexico and come back. It wasn't until maybe high school that it was like, well, he's getting a job and she's getting a job, and I can't. Like, why can't I get a job? And oh, it's because you're undocumented. Like, you're not from here. We brought you here when you were young, but you're not from here, so you can't get a job. That's how I found out. Once we were applying for college and all that, that was something I couldn't do because I didn't have DACA yet. And that's when I started getting more interested in learning about DACA. But before that, I had no idea.
I actually found out because our school was pushing to send out college applications, start looking into colleges. So they were like, oh, just have this information ready. And when I asked my mom about this information, she was like, well, you don't really have it. And I was like, what do you mean I don't have it? She's like, well, you weren't born here. And I was like, what do you mean I wasn't born here? I don't understand. So that was sort of a new concept. I was probably maybe 12, 13 years old when that sort of happened. I think for a certain point, my life in the U.S. was pretty normal, except for the fact that I didn't know I was an immigrant until it was time to apply for colleges.
Undocumented students cannot get in-state tuition. Even if I would have been accepted to a public university, they might have wanted to charge me out-of-state tuition, which is about 3 times more. If I would have graduated with the bachelor's degree, I wouldn't have been able to work because I didn't have a social security number.
Once I got DACA, I went to go apply for my social security, but they just never gave it to me. The social security office never gave me a straight answer, and I would just go back and forth. So I did have DACA for 4 years, but they never wanted to give me my social.
I wasn't that late to applying DACA. I did apply the year that it was announced. Obviously, at the time, Obama was running for his second term. His campaign was that, hey, I want to do something for the immigrants and the dreamers. And I was like, hey, I'm a dreamer, so I might want to pay attention to this. And it wasn't until his second term that he did DACA. But even then, there's nothing more that DACA can offer you besides a stay here. But even then, you have to renew it every 2 years. So I remember that it was announced that it was a good thing that people wanted to do. But initially, I was sort of scared because I didn't know exactly how much information I had to give up or how to pay for it, because these things can be expensive. So I remember initially I didn't actually do anything until a friend of mine did the process and he got approved. So he kind of talked me through it, and then once I had that information, we looked into it and then find out the qualifications. I did meet them, started looking for paperwork. There was a lot of proof that I was here, I did my schooling, I did all that stuff. At least to me, that was that fear that if I get rejected, immigration already knows where I live. I literally gave up my information, not only mine, but my parents and my whole family. Even then, my cousins were like, it's a fraud, it's a sham, don't do it, they're just gonna deport you. And sort of that ended up feeding into my fear, but ultimately I did end up going through it. And I actually got accepted. So right around the time Trump was running for presidency, seeing his campaign and how many people were rallying behind him and the message that he was portraying and the image that he was talking about me, it wasn't true at all, but he was gaining a lot of momentum. I had DACA at the time. So the fact that he talked about DACA and was like, you know what, maybe we don't want to have that anymore, maybe we want to take it away. In my mind was like, well, I don't know if I want this person who doesn't know who I am, doesn't know what I stand for, doesn't even know I exist, have so much power over me and decide whether I can stay or I can go or how I go. So I decided maybe just it's time probably to take that back and I make the decision and move back.
Since he got deported, we have kids. I decided that I would give up my DACA and come here so that my kids could have a better life with their dad. He pushed a lot for me not to come here because he knew what I was giving up. Basically, my whole life is over there. Here we don't know anybody, so it's completely different. And he did tell me like a lot of times, like, please don't come. You're gonna regret it. It's gonna be my fault. He took a lot of blame, I think, but it was my decision to come here. I wanted to make things work, and we'll find a way. As long as we're together, we'll find a way.
Like any American would, they struggle to adapt to a Mexico they barely know. We talk about dreamers returning to Mexico. The reality is that this is not a return trip. This is exile.
You have that mentality where you create a future. You start thinking about how things are going to be. I didn't have no future. I didn't have any present at all. I look back and I can see how hard it was. At that time, I didn't realize it because I was just worried about other things. I was already there for 14 years, so it was half of my life. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was going to do to support myself, my family. So it was actually very hard. It was a nightmare.
We're not planning on going back. We're gonna make our life here and make the best of it. If we could make it in the States illegally, we can make it here, legally. So that's how we got here.
If I was to put a label on it, I might say I feel Californian because that's where I grew up and that's what I know. But I don't fully understand Mexico that well. Yeah, I know I'm Mexican by birth, but that's about it.
Do you see a dreamer as an identity for yourself?
I think I really identified with it back stateside because I fell into the criteria little box of a dreamer. Here, I'm just another citizen. I'm just a Mexican here. One of the things that they don't really prepare you for is the little things. So getting used to the expressions, the way people speak. People were very quick to pick up, oh, they're not from here because of the accent that they had. And starting a whole new life was interesting. And that's something I wasn't prepared to do, at least not in the moment. Once I realized, I was like, oh, I don't think I was prepared for this. I didn't think things through. But there was a lot of adapting, a lot of getting used to, and just accepting. That's the thing that happened, and then now I'm here. That now is my reality, and that's how I have to view it and accept it, because if I try to fight it, I'm just going to end up going in circles.
Difficulties aside, dreamers are finding ways of making a life in Mexico.
Here. This was in 2014. This academic person, I think that I would have been on the path to citizenship just because I did feel American, and I had gone to school in the U.S. for so many years and pledged allegiance to the flag and been in different types of programs. So right now I define myself as a Mexican. But I'm also an activist, I'm also an interpreter, I'm also a teacher, I'm also somebody's relative or somebody's son, I'm also somebody's husband. So that's how I define it as well.
So it's kind of hard when you don't know your country. You don't know what to do, where to go. You don't know anything.
At the same time, it's exciting because it's something new. You know, you've lived over there your whole life and all you've known is one small town. Everyone knows everybody, you know. Hey, how you been? You know, you graduated, I went to high school with you, and over here nobody knows you. Scary, but it's exciting.
For us, it's better here. We get a lot more benefits, and we have jobs that we would never get.
I mean, over there, since I was illegal, just going to the store was kind of like a life and death decision. You know, you could just go to Walmart, get your groceries, and get pulled over and get deported for not having an ID, for not having a driver's license. You're always on edge. Here, it's a little bit more relaxed. You're in your country. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You can't get deported from your country.
I think there's this really bad stigma on Mexico. The news and the media portrays Mexico as a very violent place. Yes, there is violence. Yes, there is fear. But there's also a lot of people just living. People don't understand that people just find a way to live. It might not be the best way, but people just end up living. Moving here to Mexico, I've had to prioritize my fears. Back stateside, it was like, is it going to be a mass shooting? Is it going to be a terrorist attack? Am I going to get deported? My parents going to get deported? Here, it's more like, I might get mugged. I don't know. Probably try not to go out too late. There is a way to make a life for yourself, but it's not easy. If you end up here in Mexico, it's not the end of the story. It's not the end of the line. It's just a different story. It might start out rough, but if you put in the effort, it might turn into something better. But even then, nothing's guaranteed. You know, if you can have a horrible life back stateside, you can have a horrible life back here.
The biggest sacrifice. Sometimes you don't want to feel Mexican. You're Mexican, but at the same time, you're trying to be something different. Or you're trying to adopt their culture. You're trying to talk like them. You try to be more like them. You split yourself a little bit because of that. You know, so instead of enforcing your roots and say, I'm more Mexican because I'm here and I have to represent, it's actually the other way around. When you're Mexican and you say, I was born in Mexico, there are some people that they like, paisa, or they call you other names, you know, and sometimes it's coming from Mexican Americans, not only from other races. Something clicked inside of me, and I knew that I was in touch with something deeper within myself, and I just started educating myself, know more about the history of the country and all the natives that used to live here and all the cultures. That make me feel proud of, being who I am. At the end of the day, we are human race, but it's good to be in touch with your roots.
I used to view myself as a laborer in the States. I mean, that's really what I was. I was doing remedial job, manual labor. My whole education was a waste because, I was going to work with people who never went to school, and I did all this time in school and ended up doing the same thing as them. Here, I actually feel like my education is serving me something, and I feel like part of the community, like I'm somebody here. It's a career. I can upgrade if you want to be a supervisor, you want to be this, you want to be that. There's opportunity here.
I feel like they're really hard on people who messed up when they were young. And we all change as, we get older. I feel like that's something that I would like to see that change, that they give you like a second opportunity to prove them wrong, to show that, we can be better, we can change. And we just want to do things the right way.
A lot of people talk about the U.S. as being a land of opportunity. Do you agree with that?
The opportunities are there. It's up to you if you want to take advantage of them. Like she said, when you're young, you make mistakes. We're held on a higher standard. You mess up once, you're done. They gave me my first deportation 10 years to reapply, to come back. That's 10 years. It's a long time to be away from your family. They're asking you to stay in your country for 10 years in a country you've never lived in, that you don't know anyone, that you don't even know the language correctly. People get probation for murdering people, for wrecking and killing somebody. You get probation if you're a U.S. citizen. If you get pulled over and you don't have a license, you're automatically deported. To an extent, there's an opportunity. I do thank the states for the education that they gave me, the work ethic they instilled in me. There is opportunity. Sometimes we make mistakes, but everything happens for a reason.
Do you have any other comments that you would like to add?
There's a lot of people that go there and work hard and try to do everything to support their family. And not only that, also they do it because they love the country. You get to that point where you feel love for the country because they will provide a lot of things for you, things that you cannot get here.
Very weird when I started to think of identity. As I got older, more when I got back here to Mexico, it was sort of, okay, well, I'm clearly not American because the American government doesn't recognize me as such. And then when I get here, they're like, oh, well, you're not Mexican, you're American because you grew up over there. So I'm sort of then, where do I belong?
Yet, in this life, dreamers struggle to make sense of the person who they were when they left the States and the person they are now. Part of the struggle is knowing they left a life behind. Wondering if they have been somebody and not just anybody, things would be different. Like other Mexican Americans, dreamers feel the burden of living up to a standard that is disconnected to the realities they live.
If you got DACA, it meant that you were gonna be somebody big. There was a lot of pressure. You know, you have to go to college, you have to make this amount of money. I think most DACA recipients do take advantage. I wasn't able to take full advantage of mine just because of financial situations. I don't think I ever felt like a true dreamer just because I didn't really work towards going to a nursing school or anything like that. I think that's what the dreamer is viewed as. They go to college, they get their degree, you know, they get a good job. I never was able to go down that path. I just want you guys to be able to see our side as well, not just the stereotypical side of things.
It's something that needs to be said, needs to be heard. I mean, we're not all bad people. I was American before I got deported. That was what I thought. I didn't know permanent means permanent until you mess up. We're not all rapists. We're not all what Trump said. We're not that.
Now we know that here, you know, we can get a good job. We can live freely. We can vote. We can get benefits. It was something we didn't get over there. So I don't think I would ever live there again, but I would love to get the opportunity to go visit. There was more opportunity because of DACA. I think I just didn't fully take advantage of it. Yeah, it's the land of the free and the way that you can do, you know, whatever it is that you set yourself to, but it's also not because you're feared driving down the street. You fear getting pulled over with your kid, taking him to get ice cream or something. There's fear. It's not all just free. You have to, I think you can pay a high price for trying to be in that free lifestyle. Nurse, that's something that really just always interested me. Maybe like I don't know, I'm just all over the place right now, like a pediatrician or like an x-ray tech, a sonogram tech, something like that, something in that medical field. That's what I would like to do.
My mom's buried over there. I'd like to go drop off some flowers, say hi. Don't take advantage of anything. Cherish everything you have, because it can go from one day to the next. You can lose everything. Value time. I was gone from my family for almost a year. I missed my mom's funeral. I missed the birth of my son. Those are things I can't get back. Don't take advantage of anything. Value your time. Value time. You can't get time back. And if you have family, you know, keep them close, because you can lose it over one mistake.
I mean, I hope that this helps you guys, helps out someone, I guess, who's debating, you know, what should I do, what happens, you know. My story didn't end. It just, I guess, switched languages maybe, I don't know, got subtitles, I don't know.
By the time you hear these stories, DACA might no longer be. Today, what's left of DACA is one Supreme Court decision away from not existing. What's next, I hope, is a policy that values people for where they are as who they are. It's tiring to fit into someone else's expectation of who we should be. The premise of DACA was to be included as citizens. The legacy of DACA is that it remains as ephemeral as